even greater scale. Behind the coastal crust, a new line of barriers was constructed that stretched for hundreds of miles right through the heart of the country.
Citroen's Happy Deals mean you can get a chic new C1 from just $6,595 with 6.3% APR, or the sporty C2 from just $6,695 with free insurance on the 1.1 design for 19s and over. And the spacious C3 from only $6,995 with typical 0% APR with 35% deposit on selected C3 models. Citroen Happy Deals. They're great value-amundo.
How close does a biker have to be before you see them? Here. Here. Or here. At a junction, look, then look again. Think. Take longer to look for bikes.
We won't be a second.
Should we?
Nah, more than give you a car insurance quote in a couple of minutes. It's dead easy.
Lucky?
Nice car, Tom.
Yeah. Hey, look, I've got my quote.
That's lucky.
Andy says I could save even more if I buy online.
That's more than lucky.
Save more on car insurance when you buy online at morethan.com.
Lads.
Nice one, mate.
With smoothness and flavour, Tetleys don't do things by half.
Everybody wants perfect vision. Who wouldn't? Imagine freedom from glasses and contact lenses. Laser eye treatment from Ultralaser has made this possible for thousands of people.
The treatment itself, I can't fault it.
The vision is even better now than it was with glasses. It's brilliant.
Ultralaser offers Wavefront, the superior laser eye treatment for a better quality of vision. For a free DVD and information pack, free phone 08000 08000 or visit ultralaser.com.
I'm so grateful. I really am grateful to Ultralaser.
On DVD now.
Where there's a will, there's a weapon.
Lord of War.
It was the biggest outbreak of any infectious disease the world has known, killing 50 million. Scientists now know it was bird flu. With H5N1 on our doorstep, they are now in a race to understand that bird flu in the hope of saving millions today. Beating Bird Flu, an Equinox special next Monday at 8 on 4.
In the summer of 1940, the government embarked on the second phase of Britain's massive anti-invasion defences. If German forces managed to puncture through the coastal crust, a second line of fortifications awaited them. A tranquil river, a wooded glade, quiet country lanes, all hide clues to an almost forgotten network of defences. Francis Pryor has travelled to Carmarthenshire in southwest Wales and teamed up with Roger Thomas, one of the country's leading experts on World War II archaeology.
Now, Roger, what is this pillbox doing on the edge of a socking great salt marsh right, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, why do they put it here?
Well, it's not quite as strange as it looks, because in actual fact, this is the end of 72 miles of continuous defences. And if you come up on the bank here,
yeah,
you can see, right, look, see the White House over there?
Yeah.
Just in front of that, there's another pillbox.
So there'd be a pillbox over there, then another one?
Yeah, there's pillbox after pillbox after pillbox. And they're all covering one another. They could all fire,
Right.
close enough to fire and support one another.
That's an incredible undertaking. And then presumably also there'd have been, I don't know, anti-tank ditches, mines, barbed wire, tank traps even?
Oh, tank traps, anti-tank cubes, rails, you name it, it's all there.
Most pillboxes were surrounded by a network of trenches, but little evidence of these remains today.
Would there have been as many earthworks as there would have been pillboxes?
More. There'd be far more earthworks than there were pillboxes. When people see a pillbox, they see the concrete, they're blinded by the concrete, they forget the earthworks.
So there'd have been earthworks all around here, would there?
Oh, yeah.
This pillbox marks the beginning of an intricate barrier of defences known as a stop line.
As you drive along all over the country, you see pillboxes sitting there, and they're nearly always parts of systems.
You don't build pillboxes in isolation.
No.
The Carmarthen stop line snakes through the Welsh countryside, a vast line of defences that was designed to halt any German invasion. Because of its remote location, it's one of the best preserved. Now, Francis Pryor and Roger Thomas are tracing its entire length.
Well, Roger, clearly these various defences are following the railway embankment. I mean, you've got tank cubes there, you've got a socking great pillbox there, but what have we got over here?
Right, well, what we've got over here are steel rails. Again, an anti-tank obstacle. If you look, they're old scrap tram lines.
Oh, yeah.
They've used metal from wherever they can get it.
But why does it just end like that?
It's simple. That's salt marsh. You try and drive a tank round that and it'll sink. And beyond there, you've got further defences.
But I mean, there's just a vast amount of work in putting these things, bedding them in concrete. I mean, you know...
Enormous. And this is just a small fragment of numerous lines of defence which crisscross the whole country.
Giant ditches cut across the open fields of Britain, forming an impassable barrier against tanks. Tank traps and barbed wire stretched for mile upon mile, and concrete pillboxes lined the countryside. Now only a few scattered traces remain of these great lines of fortifications.
Roger, as we drive along, I mean, you know, you see the odd pillbox, and one becomes very aware that this stop line is a major, major undertaking. I mean, 72 miles, it's quite extraordinary.
The stop line was adapted according to the landscape, and exposed sections were more heavily defended.
So, Roger, we're still on the stop line, but now we're in a concrete building that was presumably used for guns. What's that?
For a 4-inch quick-firing gun, which closed the entrance to the estuary here. And it was firing across, and there was another one on the opposite side which fired back, totally closing the entrance to any shipping.
So, I mean, this is really serious gunfire, and I mean... put in mind of that medieval castle over there. Is that doing the same thing?
It's exactly the same principle. It's closing the entrance.
OK, so now the river is forming part of the stop line.
The river is the stop line.
Right, OK, let's go upriver and have a look at it.
The landscape's natural barriers formed the spine of the defences. Rivers and gorges became defended battle lines.
So we're tracing the entire length of the stop line, and this is great fun because it means you go through some absolutely gorgeous country, because the really steep stuff is the stuff that the tanks don't like, isn't it? So
that's the obstacle.
That's the obstacle.
It's the nature of the place. It's not what people think is a military stop line. They think of concrete and defences.
That's right.
This is a far more effective defence than any lump of concrete.
Right, we're 20 miles up the stop line, and we're in this gorge, this ravine, and you can see the height of the edges, completely tank-proof. And then the land dips down behind that pub. That must have been a point of weakness.
Well, that's where the landscape fails, and that's why we have to defend this point, and that's why all the defences are built here, to stop the German tanks coming down that valley.
Even the most unlikely spot was transformed into a potential death trap.
Right, this is the heavy-duty end of the defences. Back there was a big pillbox which covers the natural gap in the side of the valley, and it also fires along the road. Now here, in the side of this pre-war pumping station, they cleverly concealed a brick-built pillbox. And the embrasure, the gun, fires along the stream here, catching anyone who's going to try to sneak either downstream or upstream. Upriver of the pillboxes was a double row of railway line posts that were actually set in concrete. They come down the hillside, across the river, and then up this side of the hill. And if you look at the very top of the posts, you can see they've had some holes cut in them. This was for a steel rope, which was stretched between, and the rope and the lines together made a very effective barrier against tanks. This is so unexpected. This is Second World War barbed wire, complete with the steel spikes that made it into an entanglement. It ran for 30 feet along the river here, down to the water's edge, and it would have been manned day and night by the Home Guard. Now, it's an extraordinary thought, but here we are, in the middle of rural Wales, and there are people waiting for and expecting an invasion. So then a stop line basically consists of a natural feature in the landscape, like a river or a valley, which is reinforced at weak points by pillboxes, barbed wire, and all the rest of it. But the purpose of the thing was to slow down blitzkrieg, was to stop the German army whizzing around across the landscape.
Basically making the whole advance grind to a halt.
Oh, good grief, look at that. Oh, aren't they fantastic?
The best preserved section of the Carmarthen stop line provides a glimpse of the immense defences that dominated Britain's landscape 65 years ago.
So this is it. We've come to the end of the Carmarthen stop line, and it's taken us 72 miles to get here. Beyond us, over the horizon there, is the sea, and between us and the horizon is a landscape of deep valleys which would have been impossible for tanks to operate in. Now here, this is the last bit of open countryside, and that's why we've got tank traps, we've got a massive pillbox, and where I'm standing, this would have been thickly sown with mines. But I think these fragments of old defensive landscape are so important because they remind us that back in 1940, the entire population of these islands faced the very real threat of invasion.
The Carmarthen stop line is just one of over 100 stop lines that cut across great swathes of Britain. The biggest of them was the GHQ line, which was designed to run the length of Britain, encircling London, and protecting its industrial heartland from invasion from the south and east. But the stop lines needed to be manned. This job often fell to the men of the Home Guard, a massive army of nearly 1.5 million volunteers who had to juggle full-time jobs and then after work hurried to carry out their defence duties. Aged 17, Robert Barnard was based in Barking, East London.
Armed with a Sten gun, we were prepared to take on the Wehrmacht. How successful we would have been, I don't know, but we would certainly have tried.
It's been 62 years since he last fired a machine gun.
You are ready for firing. Yes, it all comes back to me. I can remember it so well. I like the old Sten. I thought it was an efficient weapon, and it will certainly kill you if you fire it at somebody. But I'd look forward to firing it again after all these years, yeah.
In its early amateur days, the Home Guard was hampered by poor training and lack of weapons. But by early 1941, it had been moulded into an impressive fighting unit who would have fought ferociously to protect their country.
There's not very much kick to a Sten. Just keep the muzzle down, and that usually manages to keep them on the target, which I'm very looking forward to seeing. Okay, let's have a little closer look. Oh yes, I seem to have given him a nasty taste in the mouth, didn't I? Yeah, not bad. I only fired 20 rounds on there, a few off I suppose, but that's to be expected. Yeah, I really got him, didn't I? And most of those are in bursts. When I was a young man, I'm pretty sure I could have put them all into, certainly within the target area in the centre there. But I'm not disappointed. Don't forget I haven't fired that Sten gun, that particular Sten gun, since 1943, which is a very long time. And so it came out quite well, really.
Every Home Guard unit had a specific area to defend, right down to the smallest village. In the spring of 1941, the government's latest plan for the defence of Britain was set in motion. If the Germans managed to overcome the coastal crust and the stop lines, they would encounter another hidden layer of defences, in which the Home Guard would play a pivotal role.
This may look like a tranquil rural scene with a village nestling down there in the valley, but in fact it conceals clues to the final phase of anti-invasion defences that transformed the British landscape. This pillbox is the most obvious archaeological clue. Now, it may seem to sit in isolation, but in fact, if you cut down that hedge, it covers the entire village and has a direct line of fire onto the bridge. Any invading force would have to cross the river, so it was vital to defend the bridge. Now, the first line of defence was provided by a simple roadblock, which consisted of steel wires which were attached onto these railway lines and then stretched across the bridge. Now, the next line of defence was in fact this house. Every house around the bridge became a little miniature fortress. Fire from that loophole up there covered the bridge, and then all the houses around the bridge had loopholes which have subsequently been filled in. Then underneath the bridge they placed explosive charges that could be blown up at a moment's notice. These defences were manned by the local Home Guard, who were motivated because they were protecting their families and their homes. The village was centred around a deadly ambush. Now, this marks a change in defence strategy away from massive lines of tank traps and barbed wire towards an intricate network of roadblocks and ambushes where every village and every crossroads was transformed into a potential battlefield.
The country's fortifications were now in place. By 1944, 20% of Britain was under some form of military control. So how would Britain's defences and the Home Guard have coped if the Germans had actually invaded? Incredibly, it was put to the test. With the help of Andrew Robertshaw, a military historian and expert on war games, we can discover the results.
This is an original map from the summer of 1940, used to plan Hitler's invasion of Britain, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. It shows where each of the divisions would have landed on the coast and, very importantly, where the paratroopers would have been dropped just behind the beach defences. In 1974, these plans were used at the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst to stage an elaborate war game. The idea of the game was to find out what was the definitive answer to the question, what would have happened if the German invasion had actually occurred in the summer of 1940?
The Kriegspiel, or war game, is a German invention. By weighing up statistical probabilities and plotting each side's strategies, it's possible to estimate the results of a real battle. The Nazi invasion of France was planned by using precisely this technique. But the war game run at Sandhurst was unique. They even invited the German commanders who were involved in the planning of the real Operation Sea Lion, such as Admiral Friedrich Ruge. Pitted against them was an array of Britain's top military experts. It also reunited two former foes, Battle of Britain aces Sir Christopher Foxley Norris and Adolphe Galland. Now, Andrew Robertshaw and Francis Pryor are retracing every move made in this unique war game.
Before a German invasion could happen, they had to overcome two major obstacles. The first was the Royal Navy, because if those ships got amongst the invasion fleet, there would have been absolute carnage. Nobody would have got ashore at all. Therefore, the plan would have been to lay a thick belt of mines on each side of the invasion, right across the channel, isolating that whole area during the invasion phase. The next problem is the RAF. Again, they could do immense damage to any invasion fleet. In reality, the Luftwaffe went over to bombing the cities, but in the war game, what they did instead was to continue to bomb the RAF airfields, driving back the RAF and allowing the invasion to take place.
With the RAF and Royal Navy kept at bay, the invasion of Britain would soon commence.
2,000 invasion barges were assembled, ready to transport the German army across into Britain. So to protect them, the entire German fleet is mobilized, ready to give them the transport and protection they need.
Nazi Germany would now be ready to invade Britain.
What makes an iconic sports car? Thrilling drive? Unique design? Or award-winning performance? The Mazda RX-8, now with 0% finance.
Specsavers are explaining their prices openly. Pick a frame, add lenses.
Pentax lenses.
Then add extras, then work out the price for yourself.
Great.
When is a good deal not a good deal on car insurance? We asked a cross-section of motorists.
When they let you earn a no-claims discount, but not your partner or kids.
At Direct Line, we don't just give great prices. We let named drivers earn their own no-claims discount.
Better.
When you're not rewarded for being a loyal customer.
At Direct Line, we offer an extra discount when you insure your second car.
That's better.
When they've got a flashy website, but you can't speak to anyone. And rinse. Sorry.
And we not only have great online deals, we're also on the phone here in the UK waiting to help.
That's better.
Direct Line. A good deal. Better.
Technology has made it easier to identify benefit cheats.
Whatever you need a PC for, Dell has the one you want for less than you might expect. In our March sale, this Dimension desktop with an Intel Pentium 4 processor is now only £399. Buy now and get £30 off, free shipping and handling, and McAfee Security Centre on selected desktops. Dell don't sell in the shops, so call or go online.
North East England. Passionate people, passionate places. Call now for your free holiday guide.
My business? Getting there. My business manager? Elsewhere. My job? All hours. My business manager? Strictly office hours. Look at me. My chat. Oh, that lovely. Thank you. Part of the service. My business manager's chat? Extra.
There is another way. More business advisors in branch, phone support 24/7, and free face-to-face advice.
My patient's exhausted. My account switched.
For a tasty hot snack without all the hassle, hey, there's only one. Hot Pockets.
New Hot Pockets from Maggie. Crispy, fresh-baked tasting pastry parcels that are packed full
Full of delicious fillings, new frozen Hot Pockets, the crispy, fresh-baked taste.
Hot Pockets!
How did 3 young men from the West Midlands end up in the world's most notorious prison?
You're now the property of the U.S. Marine Corps!
From the acclaimed director Michael Winterbottom comes an award-winning film. For the first time since their release, the Tipton 3 give their own account of their terrifying ordeal. The Road to Guantanamo, Thursday at 9 on 4.
What would have happened if Nazi Germany had invaded Britain in 1940? To find out, in 1974, the military academy at Sandhurst ran one of the most elaborate war games ever staged. The players were men who had actually been involved in the planning of Operation Sea Lion, and they used Hitler's original invasion plans. Now, Andrew Robertshaw and Francis Pryor are retracing every move made by the military strategists and are able to describe it in detail, as if it had actually happened.
This is Cookmere Haven. It's a tranquil cove about 10 miles east of Brighton, but it's also a gap in the great wall of white cliffs that guard the south coast. The Germans knew this, and they had it marked on their invasion maps. But even so, it would not have been a pushover to take.
In the war game, German Stukas began to dive-bomb British defences on the coast. The Royal Navy would have taken shelter out of the range of the Luftwaffe at Scapa Flow in the Orkneys. The channel would now lie unguarded for the German invasion fleet.
On the morning of the 22nd of September 1940, the first wave of attackers swept in.
The first force of nearly 90,000 German soldiers began to land on a frontage of nearly 100 miles, from Folkestone in the east all the way along to Brighton in the west.
Now, as soon as they landed on the beach, they were confronted by a tangle of barbed wire and scaffold, and they came under murderous fire from over there. But their job was to clear the beach, whatever the cost.
Just after first light, the first of nearly 600 German aircraft swept in low over the channel. This is what the British feared the most. The arrival of nearly 8,000 German paratroopers, dropping behind the defences into the unsuspecting fields of Kent.
The Royal Navy would have immediately set sail, but it would take them almost 2 days to reach the channel. Meanwhile, on the beaches of southern England, the invaders would confront the first line of coastal defences. Anti-tank cubes and this